Welcome to Michigan's WW1 Centennial News Report. I'm Dennis Skupinski. We have some great news at the national level. 8 of the 12 WW1 Centennial Commissioners have been chosen. Let's go to Kansas City, Missouri and find out what's happening. The WW1 Centennial Commission Act was Public Law 112-272. It was signed officially into law on January 16, 2013. The Commission is responsible for the planning, developing, and executing programs, projects, and activities to commemorate the centennial of World War I, encouraging private organizations and state and local governments to organize and participate in activities commemorating the centennial of World War I, facilitating and coordinating activities throughout the United States relating to the centennial of World War I, and serving as a clearinghouse for the collection and dissemination of information about events and plans for the centennial of World War I, and developing recommendations for Congress and the President for commemorating the centennial of World War I. There are 12 commissioners. 8 of them have been picked. They are: Colonel Thomas Moll has more than 46 years of military and public service. He is currently the Director of the Department of Veteran Services for Ohio. He was appointed to the Commission by Speaker of the House, Congressman John Boehner of Ohio. James S. Whitfield of Independence, Missouri is a Navy veteran of World War II and has held various posts in the American Legion at the state and national levels. He was appointed to the Commission by the American Legion. Congressman Ted Pohl serves on the House Judiciary Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee as the chairman of the Subcommittee on Terrorism, Nonproliferation, and Trade. He was appointed to the Commission by Speaker of the House, John Boehner of Ohio. Philip C. Peckman of Las Vegas, Nevada, owns Peckman Outdoor Media, a Las Vegas-based billboard company, and is on the board of directors of the Silver State Bank in Nevada. He was appointed to the Commission by Senate Majority Leader, Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. Dr. Mary Davidson Cohn, Chair of the Museum Board of the Liberty Memorial Association in Kansas City, Missouri, was appointed to the Commission by the Liberty Memorial Association National World War I Museum. Richard Kolb of Kansas City, Missouri is a publisher, Director of Publications, and Editor-in-Chief of VFW magazine. He was appointed to the Commission by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Harry L. Hester is a former Air Force officer and was a chairman of the 70th anniversary of the World War I National Committee. He was appointed to the Commission by Minority Leader in the United States Senate, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. James B. Nutter of Kansas City, Missouri is a founder of the James B. Nutter and Company, Incorporated. He was appointed to the Commission by the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. Main Street on a hot August day, awnings were stretched and umbrellas were open to deflect the sun. A trolley rambles by. On such a day in 1914 came word that the month-long drama of European diplomacy had given way to the guns of war. Asked by a reporter for his views on the emerging conflict, James B. Angel, who 4 times during his presidency had taken leave of the university to serve his country as a diplomat, spoke of it as a most dreadful calamity. He remained optimistic that the cost of World War would be so tremendous that before long the international money power would step in and halt it. Few in Ann Arbor would have challenged this expert opinion. After the European War broke out, many in the Ann Arbor area followed the war as they would a sporting event in the pages of the Daily Times News, the local newspaper for the Ann Arbor area. While a majority of the citizens in the U.S. rooted for the Allies, many in the Ann Arbor area sent their hopes and prayers east of the Rhine to Germany. With America officially neutral, the different sympathies could coexist without much strain, and the strain was even less as the war brought prosperity to the area. The Ann Arbor-Ypsilanti area was one of the thousands of areas across the United States that reaped the benefits of war. 1915 was a banner year for business, and 1916 proved to be even better, as war provided a long-sought catalyst for local industry. Practically every manufacturing plant, stated the Times News, was enjoying extraordinary prosperity. The Hoover Steel Ball Company more than tripled its size to meet the demands for ball bearings. There were problems, however. During December 1916, 140 women from the inspection department at the Hoover Ball Bearing Company walked out demanding more pay. Ann Arbor Girls Rebel ran the headline in the Detroit Labor News, and soon they were joined by over 100 men. Besides winning a small raise for some of the women, the strike also suggested that the local working women weren't that different from the rest of the American women. War fever and patriotism was hitting Ann Arbor. During September of 1917, during a giant send-off of the city's first draft, one of the speakers said, "You're either for us or against us." One resident of Ann Arbor, a high school teacher who taught German, was summoned to the Dean of Women's office at the university and told that her boarding house, quote, "a German cottage," would no longer be suitable for university women after there were complaints of her pro-German stance. Another local German woman was dismissed from rolling bandages with the American Red Cross because she was accused of putting ground glass into bandages. After several disgraceful episodes of patriotism, the mayor of Ann Arbor, Mayor Worcester, called upon his citizens to exhibit more intelligence and diplomacy in their demonstration of patriotism, but that was like asking sport fans to lower their voices and clap politely at a sporting event. Even school children were not exempt. Students were asked to sign a Pledge of Allegiance to my country, in which they promised to do all in their power to help the country win the war. Out of 550 students enrolled, 125 failed to sign the pledge. During September of 1918, at a school meeting, there was a vote followed by a rousing applause for a motion to drop teaching of German in the 7th and 8th grades. Because of its German heritage, military service in Ann Arbor was looked upon with favor. When a call to arms came for the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and now the Great War, Ann Arbor residents flocked to the colors to do their duty. Some young men were drafted, others volunteered for service overseas, while students who attended the University of Michigan could volunteer for the Student Army Training Corps at the University of Michigan while still attending classes. They learned military skills and practiced military discipline. This was all part of the wartime effort so that everyone contributed to the country's victory over Germany. In the fall of 1918, the American Army had finally arrived overseas and was on the move, turning the tide for the Allies against the Germans. Meanwhile, on the home front in Ann Arbor, gauze masks were over the nose and mouth of residents. Schools were closed for 2 weeks in October. Movies and other public meeting places were closed. Makeshift infirmaries were set up for the convalescent Student Army Training Corps boys. Although there were many deaths among them, they were billeted in crowded fraternity houses in the student union. The worst flu epidemic in modern history had been ravaging the world all fall, in the homes as well as in the armed forces. But on November 11, 1918, victory finally came to the Allies. November 4th, the Ann Arbor Daily Times News cried jubilantly in letters 5 inches high, "Austria deserts Kaiser Bill." A day or two later, Germany ripe for outbreak of revolution, and on November 7th, Hun sailors at Kiel mutiny. In the mid-afternoon on Friday, November 8th, came one of the strangest blunders of all time. The false armistice was announced. It was shortly after 2 a.m. Monday morning, November 11th, that sleepers were aroused. 10 minutes after the wire came through the Time News, the newspaper boys were on the streets yelling, "Extra, extra." 2 p.m., the official parade got underway at the corner of Main and Ann. 8,000 strong, 3 miles in length, led along by the military and city bands. It took an hour to pass any given spot. Every known organization participated, and all sorts of foreign-born were in evidence. The favorite display on the floats showed the Kaiser in effigy being either hanged or beheaded. A song fest in front of Hill Auditorium wound up the ceremony. But far into the night, cars trailing tin pans banged through the streets. Ann Arbor railroad engines tooted their whistles, dance bands played impromptu parties, and crowded movies put on free shows. What a day. Remembering the Great War, one resident who had an impact on this was Elizabeth R. Dean. She left over $2 million to the city of Ann Arbor for a tree fund. The Dean Fund planted some trees along the Huron River at Riverside Park in Ann Arbor. They called it Redbud Grove, and it was dedicated to the memory of Ann Arbor's veterans of the First World War. Redbud Grove, as you can see here during the winter and summer, is the only remembrance in Ann Arbor of the veterans of the First World War. Meanwhile, in Ypsilanti, along the Huron River, is a cross-street bridge that carries two large bronze plaques. They commemorate the veterans of the First World War. The first one is dedicated to the men of the 107th Field Signal Battalion, a National Guard unit from Ypsilanti that served with the 32nd Infantry Division. The second commemorates those who died during the war. They were put in place in 1919 by the Ypsilanti Patriotic Service League. The second item of remembrance of the First World War is located at the American Legion Post 282 in Ypsilanti at 100 Ecorse Road. It's a 155 mm Snider howitzer. These howitzers were made at Saint-Louis in France and made up for the manufacturing shortfall of U.S. heavy artillery pieces. This was a standard howitzer for the United States Army throughout the First World War. At the beginning of the Second World War, these were outdated and eventually passed out to veterans organizations for use as a remembrance.